Welcome to What Matters Now, a weekly podcast from the Times of Israel focusing on one issue facing Israel and the Jewish world right now. I'm your host, Deputy Editor Amanda Borschel-Dan, in a special conversation ahead of International Holocaust Remembrance Day on January 27th. I'm here with two very special guests, Marianne Miller, who is a Holocaust survivor born in wartime Budapest, and she will be speaking at the United Nations on January 27th, relating her survival story, which is also the base for her son Adir Miller's new film, The Ring, which is in theaters right now. So Marianne, Adir, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It is such a pleasure to meet both of you. I've been watching you for years, especially enjoying you, Marianne, every time I see you in the audience at any of your son's performances, just smiling and giving such wholehearted support. It is always maybe a little jealous, I have to say, but so happy to see.
Thank you so much.
She was my first audience. When I started, she was the first person in the theater, she and my father, of course, and she still comes to the shows.
It's really wonderful to see. And in fact, the new movie, The Ring, is based on Marianne's story, but I don't want to give away too many spoilers. So it's a bit of a tricky situation. So I'm going to ask you different questions, not necessarily about your life story. And Marianne, I understand that you led Israel's March of the Living delegation last year. And at that time, you said it was also your dream to address the United Nations in New York. And that's a really strange dream to have. So I just wonder, why was this your dream?
I tell you the truth why. Because for years, I haven't spoken about the Holocaust. Nobody knew, even among my best friends, that I was a Holocaust survivor or a Holocaust child. Because next to me and behind me were my parents and my grandparents that have gone through such a cruel way the Holocaust, and I was a baby, so even if I suffered, I don't remember. I didn't feel I had the right to come ahead and say I am a Holocaust survivor. But when everybody left, and when my mother, that I was so attached to her, closed her eyes, I woke up in the morning and literally I felt that everyone was standing around me and saying, "Get up, it's your turn now, don't hide anymore. You are the only one in our family that is left and can say in first pronoun, I have been there. It happened. It didn't happen in the Middle Ages. It happened only 80 years ago." And I got up, and maybe not on the following day, but 2 or 3 days after, I started to go everywhere that I was called. I live in a city, I was called to a different city. There were only 7 children in a youth movement wanted to hear me. And I went there, and it became the mission of my life. I felt that I don't have so much time. I have to make up for all the time that I haven't spoken about the Holocaust in the name of everybody, or that I lost all my family in Auschwitz, or they were shot in the Danube. And since then, I am speaking all the time, and I became a well-known speaker in Israel, and I was in Yad Vashem, and I was in the army units, and in many different, very important places. And my ambition always grew. Not my personal ambition. At my age, I don't want to do a career. The ambition to speak everywhere till God have given me the physical power and the voice to speak. And my biggest dream was the United Nations. It was a symbol, it was a symbol for me to tell the world, to tell the world that in the beginning I was supposed to speak 45 minutes, then just reduced it to 10 minutes. So all the time I am exercising at home how to say one more word and tell the truth. And I really feel that everyone in heaven is smiling at me, and I don't feel bad anymore that I have kept quiet so many years. This is my personal story.
It is true that the United Nations is such a huge symbol, but it's also not necessarily a friendly symbol right now for Israel. And Adir, that's something that you somewhat touched on in your movie, that those nations that aren't necessarily friendly could perhaps be swayed along the years. Hungary is the nation that right now, of course, is a great friend to Israel in terms of diplomatic relations, but the past is hidden just slightly under the surface. And the little bit that you scratch, you can find, of course, the sins of the past just out loud and even proud. I know my brother-in-law, for example, was in Budapest just a couple of weeks ago in a flea market and saw all sorts of Nazi paintings just right out there, right for sale. And did you find that when you went to Budapest that the anti-Semitism is just under the surface?
There is the new anti-Semitism and the old anti-Semitism. I felt in Budapest that the new anti-Semitism doesn't exist there. There is no propaganda for the Palestinians. I didn't saw people on the street calling from the river to the sea, this kind of stuff. But the old anti-Semitism, I felt it is hidden under, deep under. And each time, each day I called my mom from Budapest and I told her, they are so nice. Everybody here are so nice. And my mother always told me, don't be confused. Don't be confused. My grandmother, she used to tell me that the thing that hurt her the most was that her neighbors and her colleagues, they were the first people to tell the Germans, here lives a Jew, in this floor lives a Jew, go under the floor, there's another Jew. And I remember I took it very hard, and in one of the last days of the film, there was lunch, and I was eating next to the soundman. He was Hungarian, young Hungarian. He was very nice. And I asked him, you're taking a part in a film that telling the story of what the Hungarian people did 8 years ago. And how do you take it? And he immediately told me, well, it's not our fault because it was the Germans. And I told him, but listen, I know the history of my family. Hungarian people, the Arrow Cross soldiers, they shot my family to the Danube, not the Germans. And without even blinking, he told me, well, if they didn't do it, so the German will kill us. What do you want us to do? What do you expect us to do? So I felt there's not a real taking responsibility. And, even one of the producers, in the last day, we did a huge party and everybody drank, and he was a bit drunk from alcohol, and he came to me and hugged me. And then he said a sentence, you want to give me a compliment, but he told me, you are a true Hungarian. You are a true Hungarian. And I thought to myself, what does it mean, a true Hungarian? That he doesn't believe that I'm a Jew. You're so successful, you're so talented, you're not a Jew. You are a real Hungarian. So it's still there, and this is the destiny of our little nation, the Jewish people, and it still exists, unfortunately.
And for you, Marianne, when you go into the halls of the United Nations, obviously you will be accepted and you will be, complimented and adulated, but do you expect that anything you say will change the people inside the halls? Because maybe it's possible that your message is more important for those outside. Is that possible?
I feel that in that case, age is before beauty. Because of my age, I still represent the people that they wanted to wipe out on the universe. And I come back and I am accompanied with my 4 children and my 4 of my eldest grandchildren. And I come with a walking stick and I say still with a very loud and clear voice that I am here to say this is my personal answer to Hitler, because my mother saved me through thousands of miracles. And I tell just one little story how I stayed alive. And I say she saved me, and now that I came back and flew all the way from Israel with my little walking stick to say I am here with my family, this is my personal answer to Hitler. But I also speak in the name of 6 million people that I have seen in Auschwitz, mountains of shoes, mountains of glasses, mountains of hair. That's what became of them. There is nothing to say against this. And why I say in my last sentence that God has created mankind to love. I don't believe that God has created mankind to hate, to wipe out each other on the earth. And we should really think about it. We have a few decades, some 10 years to live, not for hating, not for killing, not for because of the religion, to kill so cruelly 6 million people just because they were born Jewish. That's not logical. Look at the sky. Try to find the answer if it is logical. And I say more with my emotions than with my words. Never, never, never again.
Marianne, you were back to Budapest, I assume many times, but lately for a march from Budapest to Auschwitz. And I understand that you too felt that the Hungarian people were very accepting and embracing you. And I wonder if you feel forgiveness to them as well.
I saw a different Hungary in my last visit in this time when I led the March of Death and we were in Hungary. And many, many non-Jewish people came to me, embraced me, and told me, we are so sorry for our parents. That our parents were Nazis, and we feel different. So here I come and hold the Israeli flag, and we came to demonstrate for your country, and that we feel so bad. And I had a speech because it happened at the railway station, from the same railway station where they all send the people to Auschwitz. And from that station, my mother escaped with me as a baby. And I was at the same station now, and I looked up to heaven and I said, I had a different speech to say, but now that you come to me with so much love and try to say that you are so sorry what your parents did, it's maybe just a small part of Hungarians, but they did it. I look up at the sky and say to my parents, I think that people have changed, that it's possible to be changed. And I want to believe that people can change, and I want to live with these feelings that they are changed. I am not sure how many and what is the proportion, but I want to be optimistic and to say to God, please let me believe that they did and help them to change. Completely.
That was the feeling, Adir, that I got from your movie, this ambivalence that there are people who can change, there are people who can forgive, whether it's between family members. Of course, your movie is not just a Holocaust film, it's really a family drama that uses the Holocaust as its narrative device, but it is, of course, also a Holocaust film because of this narrative device. But the idea of forgiveness in your film is so central and confusing in a way to me because I wasn't quite sure. Yeah,
but I think the secret of the Jewish people that we are forgiving, because the Jewish people all the time looks to the future. What happened in the past, we remember it, but we move on. In 1952, we made an agreement with the German government. And that's why Israel became such a powerful country. So the strength of forgiveness, it's something in the Jewish blood, I think. But we remember, we all the time remember what we keep on going. We keep on going. And, remember when we were in Budapest, there was a big ceremony with thousands of Hungarian people stood with the Israeli flags, and everybody spoke, and they were very polite and quiet. And then the ambassador, Yaakov, invited my mother to the stage. He told the Hungarian people, a few months ago, there was a director here, his name is Adir Miller, and he made a movie about the Holocaust, about a little baby in the Holocaust. And this little baby now, she's with us, and let's call her. And my mother went on stage, and the Hungarian was very polite and quiet. And my mother wasn't supposed to speak, but when she see a microphone, she cannot not to speak. So she took the mic. She said something in Hungarian, 2 minutes, that's all. And I don't understand Hungarian. But the crowd immediately, like a fire, they applaud, and they like a different crowd, like different people. And when she went off stage, I told her, what did you tell them? How did you change them? And she told me, you remember? I told them, thank you for that you have been changed. Thank you.
I
for
see a
this.
change.
And I see a change, thank you. And suddenly, because all the time everybody blames them, you did this and you did this. And a Holocaust survivor tells them, thank you for your change. It was so different and so Jewish, I believe.
You based the film in 2001, I understand, because you wanted the age to be appropriate to the setting, etc. But Marianne, I wonder, when did you begin speaking in schools in Israel? And have you seen a change in terms of how you are received? Because in the film, of course, Adir, you have the kids playing with their phones, even in 2001, very much ahead of their time. But are you seeing
there was
that?
Snake. You remember the game Snake?
I do remember the game Snake. It's so good. But I wonder, Marianne, are you seeing any kind of change in your reception here in Israel?
I want to tell you something. Here, they react to me so beautifully. At the beginning, the children, that they help me. I don't walk so stable. I go with a walking stick. So they accompany me to the stairs. They give me a hand, and they look at me with eyes with so much happiness. I see in their eyes that they are so happy that I am alive. I see that they are personally happy. Look, but she's here, but she's here, she's alive. And I feel the complete understanding of the situation. I bring them emotionally to the situation.
But she has a lot of charisma. That's the thing. I tell my mother all the time, if she was born in different time, in different country, I believe she would have been the biggest star that the world has known, because
she's a very loving son.
No, she has such a charisma. When she speaks, now we speak in English. It's very difficult. It's not our language. So the brain is,
I
very
know,
slow. The brain is very slow. I'm talking to you, and I fight in the brain. What is this word? You don't know. Change the word. Change the sentence. It's very difficult. But in Hebrew, she speaks so fluent, and she's so charismatic in front of the student that no one is playing with the cell phone when she is on stage. No one. This is in the movie, because I wanted to show in the movie the difference between what the people went through the Holocaust, and it ends with students playing with the cell phone when they tell the story. But in reality, when she speaks, nobody is taking the cell phone.
Because I put so much feelings. I feel each time I speak, I feel I say it for the first time. And each time when my mother begs from the Nazi for my life, that she ran out from the line from the march, when the destination was Auschwitz direction, the railway station, and all the women with their babies, there was a special time for each transport. This was a transport for the mothers and the babies. Then my mother tore off the yellow star, ran out of the line, and she hid under the gate. The gates were closed, and a young Nazi Hungarian soldier ran after her and swearing at her and pointing his gun at her chest and saying, "I'm going to kill your baby, and then you will join the line." There is no bigger crime imaginable than tearing off the yellow star. And then she took off her wedding ring. All she had on herself was a very thin golden ring that it was so thin that it had no value. They didn't even take it off from her finger. And she started like fire in her, going to hypnotize this young Nazi and telling her, "Look, you can take all the jewelry in the world, diamond, silver, gold, but all has blood on it. You killed, you murdered, and you took it. Nobody saw me, but you let me. This little baby did nothing to you. She's sleeping peacefully on my arm. let me go and I will give it to you. You take this thing, it's shining. There is no murder on it, no blood on it. It will bring you blessing. You will be able to say, I didn't kill. I got it as a present. And the Nazi was turning around the ring, around his finger, trying to understand her words. And in this very little minute, she ran away with me. And maybe he was connected to one little cell of humanity or mercy in himself. And then we were saved. And when I speak about it, I all the time feel how my mother felt and what she went through. And each time, words you can't repeat, that emotions are always in you. So each time I speak about it, I feel again like it is the true situation, that how my mother felt, and I have to tell about it. And each time I tell about it, I say a score for her about saving my life. So I am here and I can talk about it. It's a big privilege. This is the least that I can do in the name of those that can't talk anymore. And that's why I always speak with feelings, and feelings always talk to people. To feelings, they react. Feelings are never boring.
Feelings of sadness and tragedy, of course, but alongside that, there's a lot of laughter in your life, obviously, with your son, but also in the film. And I thought it was a really wonderful juxtaposition, putting them together side by side. The humor, not always dark, but often, of course, and the sadness and the tragedy, because, of course, you can learn so much from both. And one of the themes in the film, of course, is the son, Adir, you play the son, saying to the mother, Tipi, what is the name of the actress?
Tiki Dayan.
Tiki Dayan, yes, Tiki Dayan, who was fantastic, I thought.
Fantastic.
And Tiki Dayan at first seems to really say, no, you shouldn't be laughing at everything. But the sentence that comes back again and again is that it's okay to laugh at everything. And I wonder, Adir, first of all, do you think that's actually true? And how have you gone through life in relating your mother's story, your family's story, with that in mind?
I'm a comedian, okay? And we are a family that humor is everywhere around us. And for me, humor is my second language. So for me, humor, when you put humor on something, it doesn't mean you mock about it. It means that you see the funny thing next to it. My role in life, when people go on the street and there is a piece of humor on the floor, they don't notice. They move on. I stop and I noticed and I say, hey, there's a piece of humor. Let's take it. And my mother is one of the most funniest women I know. She's also very, very funny. So humor is all around us all the time. And my grandmother, which she is the character in the film, she was also very, very, very funny. So that's our way of life. And I knew that if I'm making a movie about the Holocaust, it doesn't mean that there will be no humor in this movie. And I grew up with a very special grandmother, and she used to tell me her stories. And it seems for me, she told the story and it was different for me, different story than other stories that we know from Holocaust survivors. Her story, she told the story, and I saw like a Hollywoodic scenes. And I knew that someday I will do something with these stories. But I knew that I don't want to do a heavy movie, a dark movie about the Holocaust. I want to do a different movie, a movie that respects the Holocaust, but there is a lot of humor, there is a lot of relationships, and there is a lot of, kibud aveim, how do you say it?
To honor the parents.
Yeah.
Respect the parents,
Mm-hmm.
respect the parents. And that's why I gave all the jokes to Tiki. All the jokes is she telling I wrote the jokes, but she's telling the jokes in the movie, and she's so funny. And when she speaks about the difference between the Ashkenazi and the Sephardi in Israel, there is one of the funniest scenes that she falls and she broke her hip.
Yeah.
She broke her hip, and I tell her what happened, And she says, that's the destiny of the Ashkenazis. One day we fell and we broke the hip. And I said, don't say like this, Mom. Don't tell me. She says, do you know a Yamanik old man that fall and broke his hip? Never. The Yamanik fall, immediately he does a Yamanik dance, and it comes back. And to see the audience in the cinemas laughing so loud in this part, and a minute after crying, I think that's the secret of the movie, that all the way you laugh and cry, and you laugh and cry. And in the end, I think the audience feel that they saw a very important movie. And, the minute I knew that the movie is good, sorry for, that in the first screening, the movie ended, and the crowd didn't
get up.
They stayed like 2 or 3 minutes, like they need to think what they saw. And it was for me, I look at the sky and said, Grandma, we did it. We did it.
The mix of laughter and crying, definitely, it's superb. And it's such an Israeli mix. And I wonder, Adir, have you started screening it abroad? And are you seeing that people can understand this really Israeli way of being?
In all my career, there's one thing I'm telling myself. I'm like a horse in his lane. And there is like this thing on the horse's eyes.
Blinders.
And I don't want to look here, and I don't want to look here. I am in my line. I'm riding in my line. And that's the way, in all my career, when I did a sitcom, I didn't watch other sitcoms. When I did, I had like a special talk show when I was very young, and she was also in my talk show. I didn't look to the sides. It's my thing. And also in this movie, I wanted to do my thing. And, when I started writing, someone told me, there is like all this kind of movie rules. Like, I don't have to say it in English. When you study cinema and movie, they tell you that after 20 minutes, the big thing must happen in the movie. And in the ring, the big thing happened after 40 minutes. And I told everybody, I'm in my lane. There's no rule. Somebody wrote after 20 minutes in his movie, something happened. And after this, they made this rule. But it doesn't mean that in my movie, this rule must happen. So I never look on other movies or in other things. I do my thing, and my stomach, I believe here, when I'm doing something, also in the editing room, there's no rules, only what I feel. And that's the way I work. And lucky for me, it succeeded.
For me, it felt like something was happening all the time. So I don't know even what the event in 40 minutes was.
No, when they flew to Budapest, this is the event,
okay.
So
Okay.
everybody told us they must, after 20 minutes, let them fly, not after 40 minutes. And I told them, but listen, this is your rules. It's like I'm like a tourist guide that go to see a cathedral. But if the way to the cathedral is very nice, nobody says, hey, when do we see the cathedral? Because they enjoyed the road. So
For sure.
If the crowd will enjoy the road, everything is okay.
I would like to just add 2 or 3 words that Adir was especially attached to his grandmother. She didn't live in the same apartment that next to us, and she was with us every day, and she was in every little children party, and she took part in everything. And in each birthday or each celebration, she was standing and saying, after the Holocaust, always started with everything with the Holocaust. After I went through, after I stayed alive, after I saved you, it's a miracle that we celebrate the 3rd birthday of one of the children. So he grew up, that history was always present, but in a very optimistic way. Not what happened to us, but in spite of what had happened to us, that we should have never forget. But we are such a happy family, and how happy I am that we are here and we survived. And he's such a sensitive child, and we didn't know that to be such a big artist, he has to be sensitive so much. She breathed it in every word, in everything. And later he said that as a small child, he decided that he's going to write a movie about the hero-ness, that his grandmother was this great heroine, and he's going to do it. And for me, the most moving part of the movie was that in the end, there is the picture of Adir, and he's 6, 7 years old, embracing his grandmother, and it's written, the movie has been made for the memory of my beloved grandmother, Violetta Nobel. And for him, it was more than just a movie. It was something that he has dreamed about it even as a child. He didn't even know it.
You know, when I was a very young stand-up comedian, I just started my career, and she was 80 years old, my grandma. She was very sick. And my mother told me, you don't want that grandma will see you perform?
On the stage.
On stage. And I told her, I was 24, and I did shows in the club. It wasn't big theaters, in 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock at night.
1 o'clock a.m. And I told her, all the audience are 16, 70-year-old people. Suddenly an 80-year-old lady will sit between them. It will be very strange. And my mother told me, but she's very sick. One day you will be happy that she came to saw you. And I invited her. It was 1 o'clock at night in a club. She slept all day and she came to the club. I remember like it was yesterday. And young people sitting between them, a Hungarian old lady. And I stopped the show and said, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very special show for me because I have the honor. My grandmother is sitting here in the audience, and this is the most important woman for me. She's with us, and everybody applaud her. And she did like this. And after that, she told me, maybe I should have given a speech or something. And, you know, and the day after I came home, and there was a letter on my pillow. And in the letter, she wrote, for me, when I was yesterday in your show, you are my answer to Hitler. Because everybody, for her, her grandson is a comedian that everybody laughs. And, you know, and she wrote there about my future. You know, you will be big, you will be successful, everybody will to see your show. And when I read these letters, I thought, yeah, it's a loving grandmother, but, you know, she's dreaming. And she was right. Everything she wrote happened.
I also want to say, because this is something that he doesn't say about himself, so I have to say that when few weeks after she had been in his show, she was already in the hospital, and there was a big hall. All the sick people were in a big hall, and at the door were standing the doctors and the nurses, and everybody was crying, and all her grandchildren and children were around her, and Adir was already known, and he was feeding her and saying her, you see, a spoon of those strawberries, she loves strawberries, and I will tell you a joke. 1 spoon of strawberry, I will tell you a joke. And my daughter, her name is Corinne, she was the youngest, and she loved to dance. And when she was little, the grandmother always asked her to dance when there were guest dance. But when she grew up, she was a teenager. Of course, she didn't want to. She came in an army uniform, and in the middle of the room in where all the sick people were lying, she started to dance. Look, I am dancing. Take a spoonful. And please, please. And
there was a show in the hospital.
No, and she was deeply touched. And I want to tell you our feelings. I always say in my speeches too, I really felt that God sent down a carriage in the colors of blue, red, silver, and gold with 6 white horses that they took her to heaven. And she's protecting us from heaven, because I say that mothers don't leave, they just change address. And she left happily. I always felt that she did her mission, and she left such a happy family behind. And she didn't know then that Adir is number one comedian and number one artist after this movie in Israel, but I feel that she knows it. And you asked me how I feel about my invitation to the United Nations. I feel mainly that all those in heaven are happy about it, and that makes me so happy that they look down and see it, and they are proud of us, all of us, that we go and all the family goes to show how important it is to us.
Marianne, Adir, you have showed me such love between the two of you and such love for your grandmother, mother, child. It's really made me feel so great. I no longer have a grandmother or a mother, and so just to see this again live is just so wonderful. And we see it in the film as well. So I really recommend everyone please go out and see this film.
In one of the screening, a 17-year-old girl came out, and she came to me with tears in her eyes, and she told me, "You know, Adir, I don't speak with my mother for 3 months. But now, because of your movie, I'm going to call her tonight." And I hugged her and I tell her, so it was worth it because, you know, this is the most important thing in life, you know, and only when our parents are passing away, we miss them so much. And the movie is also about the relationship between parents and their children.
It's all about that. And I have chills hearing what you just said. And of course, I see between the two of you that this relationship is central to you both. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Good luck next week.
Much.
Yes, pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Toda.